And while the procession makes its way into the auditorium, and then to remain standing for the national anthem. Thank you. Be seated. Good evening, everybody. A very warm welcome on a very icy and a very cold Cape Town evening. Thank you for braving the cold and being here this evening to share this very auspicious occasion with Professor Roman. And then also, it's so lovely to see some of our faculty members, Professor Anthea Rode, the acting VC at UFS, and then Professor Calvin Moaba. I saw you in the audience, and everybody else. You are so welcome here this evening. We're going to start our program by asking the Rector, Professor Tyrone Pretorius, to come and do the welcome. Thank you.
Good evening to our colleagues, our students in attendance, deans from other faculties. I see Prof. Iso there, I see Prof. De Vol here, and then also my fellow VC from the Free State. Welcome to this, excuse me. That was bound to happen one day. I have, for the rest of the week, I have another inaugural lecture tomorrow evening, and then I have the honorary doctorates on Friday evening. So I just had the speeches mixed up. Welcome to the University of the Western Cape for this evening's inaugural lecture. Tonight we celebrate the academic achievements and what Professor Nicolette Roman professors at the university. I would like to extend a warm welcome to everyone here, but especially the faculty and the students of Prof. Roman. And I'm also delighted to formally welcome the family of Prof. Roman. I was fortunate when I walked in to be walking behind Prof. Roman and her mother, and we are delighted that you are here and that after all this time you are still displaying a keen interest in the work and in the career of your daughter. This evening we are hosting the second lecture in our inaugural lecture series for this year. After COVID-19, for a period of time, we stopped having the inaugural lectures, but I pleaded with the executive that this needs to be reinstituted because it presents a significant milestone in the life of academia. It also represents a significant milestone for the professor herself. It's an opportunity for our entire academic community from across faculties to engage with new ideas, new challenges, and perspectives. And in an academic environment where we constantly use the phrase interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary, this inaugural lecture series provides a platform for that transdisciplinary, cross-disciplinary, interdisciplinary work. Inaugural lectures are a long-standing tradition at universities worldwide. With these lectures, we formally celebrate an academic's official entry into the ranks of being a full professor. It's an achievement that marks the culmination of many years of dedicated research, teaching, and service. It is this evening that proclaims to the campus community and to the wider academic community what Professor Nicolette Roman believes she is known for. Professor Nicolette Roman's work has profoundly influenced our understanding of family dynamics and social cohesion. Professor Roman's research is timely and impactful, with its focus on the capabilities and the potential of families to weave stronger societies. As we prepare to listen to a lecture, I would like to invite the Acting Dean of the Faculty of Community and Health Sciences to formally introduce Professor Roman. Thank you, and we look forward to hearing from Prof. Roman.
Thank you, Prof. Pretorius, and warm greetings to everyone. I wish to formally acknowledge our esteemed Rector and Vice-Chancellor, Professor Tyron Pretorius, our acting DVC, Prof. Pather, our deans. I see Prof. Michelle Issa once again. I'd like to acknowledge you, as well as Prof. DeVille, also acknowledge you. Then, of course, our incoming dean of the Faculty of Community and Health Sciences, Prof. Padmana Banuni, we wish to acknowledge you. And then also our deputy deans, our faculty, and our heads of departments who are here in the audience. Thank you for attending and honoring our Professor Nikki Roman. And then, of course, I would like to also acknowledge our previous dean, Prof. Roman, who's now the acting VC of Free State University. And most importantly, I wish to warmly extend and acknowledge the family, your mother, Prof. Roman, your mother, your husband, your sons, your family and friends. Welcome. Yeah, it is, of course, for me, a tremendous honor as the acting dean to introduce our esteemed senior professor and colleague Professor Nicolette Roman. For those of you who may not yet know her, Professor Roman, know her as Nikki, as we call her in the faculty as Nikki, let me say that she is truly a remarkable academic, a scholar, a researcher, and a colleague. I have known and worked with Prof. Roman in many capacities since 2010, when she first became the HOD in the social work department. So we have a relationship for almost 14 years at this university. Prof. Roman, if I think of Prof. Roman or Nikki, she is an unstoppable force and a role model to many within the faculty, including myself. I've often said that when I grow up, I want to be a scholar and a researcher like her. She currently holds the positions of a senior professor in our faculty. She's also the Saatchi Chair in the development of human capabilities and social cohesion through the family. She's also the social cohesion through family. She's also the founder and the director for the Center of Interdisciplinary Studies of Children, Families, and Society in the Faculty of Community and Health Sciences. Her passion and drive in pursuing cutting-edge research in her niche area of children, families, and society are nothing short of inspiring. As a Saatchi Chair and an NRF-rated scholar, her contributions to the field are both extensive and impactful. Prof. Roman has successfully graduated 63 master's students, 20 PhD students. Additionally, her extensive body of work includes 176 published articles, 5 published books, 28 book chapters, and her most recently edited international books in titles includes A Closer Look at Parenting Styles and Practices, Child in Africa, Opportunities and Challenges, and the third book, which is titled Family Violence. She has participated in over 62 international conferences and 14 national conferences. She's completed over 20 research projects and currently working on about 8. Sorry, I might be wrong. Colleagues, you must excuse me. In terms of a CV is available. You can email me for a CV if you really want to get it, but also you can email her. So currently she's working on about 10 research projects. All of these have further cemented her status as a leading expert in the field. Professor Roman has undoubtedly grown the critical mass in family science in South Africa. In addition to all of this, Professor Roman has achieved numerous awards and accolades. The latest award that we all attended was the recent one that she was awarded with, and that was by the DVC Research and Innovation, and she was awarded as the best woman researcher at UWC. So in 2019, she received the Best Established Researcher, and in 2022, she received the Women in Research Excellence Award at UWC. Last year, she was awarded the HRSA SA Award for Women in Humanities and Social Sciences. Colleagues and friends, I've only presented a few snippets of her incredible, impressive CV, and I sincerely hope that I've done justice to introducing you to our colleague and our senior professor, Professor Nicolette Roman. It gives me great pleasure to call upon Professor Nicolette Roman to present her lecture entitled Capabilities, Connections, and Collective Thriving, Harnessing Family Potential to Weave Stronger Societies. Over to you, Professor Nicolette Roman.
So, I'm not quite sure. Is it on? Oh, you know. It's times like this that you don't know what to do. Can I check? Okay. Good evening, everybody. I want to say welcome to my party, but clearly it's not. I'm very happy that you could attend tonight. The weather's not too great and people are not feeling well. I've received messages. So I do appreciate that you've made the time. So once again, good evening, and I'm observing all protocols for tonight. In my research, I'm presenting on, as you can see, capabilities, connections, and collective thriving, harnessing family potential to weave stronger societies. I'm going to challenge your thinking a bit tonight around certain things as I present to you my lecture. Through all the research that I've done, I've tried to carve a story that some of you would think is very simplistic. And that's the idea. I've tried to not make it too academic, but we are in an academic setup, so unfortunately you have to ride the wave with me for the theories. I want to say to my students, I do feel like I'm being baptized tonight. So having that on me means you have 24 hours to enjoy this new me that is extremely well behaved. 24 hours. Okay, so in the room, the two common factors among all of us in the room. Sorry, I'm recovering a bit of a flu as well. Is our family and connections. We come from a family, and we all have a family regardless of shape or size. Connections. We make connections on the day we are born. And the connections eventually form relationships. Some are strong, others are not. The strong ones, we often say, are bonds, often indicative of special relationships. The not so strong connections are often referred to as acquaintances. Family, relationships, connections, and acquaintances are integral parts of our lives, shaping our identities, experiences, and the very fabric of our society. As we delve into this topic, I'll be looking at these relationships, the origins, and the impact on our ability to connect and engage with others. This lecture starts with redefining the family, which forms the basis for understanding families. Using a few theories to understand families, this paper argues for a family-centered approach as a way to centralize families in finding many of the solutions in society's challenges. So ultimately, what I'm saying is that maybe we should be looking into families for those wicked problems in society. Towards the end of the lecture, I'll present some of the findings of our research. I obviously can't speak to 15 years of research that's been done, but I've tried to pick out the ones which are more recent and which are starting to make us think around certain things. So let's start with where it all begins, in the family. So when we look at families, we say, well, I'll ask you, what is a family? A family is by blood or by union. So we look at family structures, reflect, and when we look at families, we say, well, they reflect our cultural norms, economic situation, and social conventions, and these greatly vary across contexts and across time. So if you think about your own family currently and you think of the family that you've come from, they are quite different and yet similar. Over time, the main focus has been around the nuclear family. Nuclear family would be parents and children. But as time has moved, the structure of the family has changed to the extent that we have single-parent families, either father or mother. We have blended families, which is restructured families. So somebody got divorced and they got remarried. And then we also have cohabiting families. So in other words, there's not a formal legal arrangement, but people live together. We also have same-sex families. So family structures have varied over time. And if you look at when these structures started becoming prominent, with that, society had to change as well. And when we talk about society, we also talk about policies. So the more modern perspective of family calls us at certain points over time to revisit our idea of what a family is. So the idea and the whole notion of a nuclear family has changed over time. We look at South Africa, we also have extended families as part of the structure too. We have child-headed households as well. So in a diverse country such as South Africa, we have more diversity around family structures. More recently, and as I started doing some research, looking at the literature on the topic of the definition of the family, I came to the realization that maybe it's time that the family gets redefined in terms of its focus on blood and legal unions. And why is that so? Well, having gone through some of the research, and even recently I was 2 weeks in the field, 1 week in Vredenburg and 1 week in Mitchell's Plain. And when you ask people about families, they will tell you, well, their family threw them away. And the people who are dearest to them are people who are not related to them in any way, but they are the people that are there for support. And so looking at the literature, there's some of that that is starting to come through. And so it calls us then to transition, to revisit the whole notion of how the family is defined. And I want to say that we're redefining family in a way through the research that we're doing. This transition asks us to reflect on the fact that norms of the society have been the norms that stood the longest, which is true. If you think about it, it has been in existence since you were born. And yet ultimately, the policies and practices of the institutions and society in general have been the ones that have failed to keep up with those progressive changes. We just look at the workplace. Very recently, we had the parental leave policy that was implemented, brought about a great change, wasn't there before, but because of the acknowledgement that fathers need to support mothers through when they have a baby. So the whole transition calls us to revisit. Think of the fact that when you don't have this, a family doesn't have resources, for example, Where would they go? To neighbors, people who are not necessarily blood. So when we are looking at revisiting and we're looking through this lens, we can construct institutions that will accommodate and include a larger array of family structures, which represent the width and expansiveness of human existence. Thomas and Smith Morris, 2020, for example, confirms the blood and union definition of family, but they also include family-like relations. This is especially common for migrant families, where community networks provide much needed care and support. For some of us, life friendships of journeying through life from childhood to adulthood, relationships of more than 20 years. We sometimes call this doing life together. I have some of that in the room. Are considered families, in my view, and supported by Oslin 2023, a universal definition of the family could be quite difficult, because sometimes it is the non-blood and non-union family members who step in during a crisis when support is needed. We saw that during COVID, especially. However, this evolving definition of family is not without its challenges. Nothing is perfect. It requires us to confront and dismantle deeply ingrained societal conventions that uphold a singular, often rigid interpretation of family. It calls for policies and interventions that are flexible and responsive to the diverse needs of all families, particularly those that exist outside the traditional nuclear framework. As we delve deeper into the concept of family, it becomes clear that this redefinition is not merely a matter of semantics. It is a critical step toward fostering a society that is more equitable, supportive, and resilient. By acknowledging and supporting the diverse forms that families can take, we create a foundation upon which all individuals can thrive, regardless of their familial circumstances. The things that make up a family are often shaped by our own experiences, observations, ideas, and opinions about them, which then redefines how we see and understand family. I'd like to shift with a bit of a boring part, which is the theories. I'll try to make it as simple as possible. Sorry, I'm just going to get some water. So when we define families, it links us to the idea of then understanding what families are. Nothing of this is quite as simple as what it seems. It's quite complex and messy. But we try to unpack it. In order to deal with the intricate aspects of family life today, we must make use of the vast collection of theories that are available. I've only chosen 3, and of course the 4th one is the main one I want to focus on tonight. But there are many different theories that we can focus on. In some cases, people will look at the family and say, well, it's about relationships, so you need to look at attachment theory. I've chosen to look at it differently, because I'm working from a position of finding solutions. And when we want to find solutions, we have to look at developing interventions. And when we want to develop interventions, we have to go to the theories. So these may not be the perfect frameworks, but they give us a pretty good idea of family. I'd like to start with Bronfenbrenner. I think there's some people in the room who know us, we use it quite a bit. So Bronfenbrenner's ecological systems theory indicates that society is made of systems. There are 5 systems, and the family is the smaller system, and you have all the other systems that follow. So the microsystem is the family and school. The mesosystem is the interconnections between the microsystems. The exosystem is the external environments that affect the family. And then you have the macro system, which is where you find the laws and the cultures, and the chronosystem, which shows you over time. However, we can relate this theory to the family, which we do. But it's not family focused. It actually focuses on the developing individual and how the individual is located within the systems, how the individual is in the family, not necessarily how the family behaves and interacts. Which moves me on to the next one, which is Bowen's theory, family systems theory, also a system. But this theory tells us more about what is going on. So it gives us a little bit of more insight. And in Bowen's family systems theory, what it basically says to us is that there's rules and roles and change. But they don't use the word change, they use equilibrium. Change would be disequilibrium. So, balance. So in the family, there are roles, father, mother, grandmother, grandfather, aunt, daughter, son. You also have roles like the responsible one, the clown in the family, or the emotional one. I'm sure you can identify somebody in your family that's got those roles. And then we have rules. Some of the rules are said and some of the rules are unsaid. So family rules dictate how everyone in the family should behave or not. For example, when people are angry with each other, do they tell each other or do they keep it to themselves? How do family members make decisions about what to do? Do they need permission to share information outside of the family? Do they keep secrets? Do they tell people things about what's going on in the family? Over time, in terms of Bowen's theory, families develop patterns. And so with these patterns, they behave in a particular way. That is the balance. Anything outside of that causes havoc. So the balance becomes unbalanced, and therefore we use the terms, or Bowen uses the term, of equilibrium and disequilibrium. So now there's change. He used the example of a cot mobile. You know, the mobile that hangs over the cot. And when you pull one piece, it moves the whole mobile. When you shoot it back, it goes back into a resting position. What it basically symbolizes is that when one person in the family is affected by something, the rest of the family also gets affected. So that theory gives us a little bit of insight as to what happens, but it doesn't necessarily tell us about how families experience change over a period of time. How families transition. In order to address that gap, I'd like to speak about the third theory, which is the family life cycle framework. This one offers a bit more dynamic around how families function, or the cycles they go through, and as the name indicates, life cycles. So these life events impact on the family, such as marriage, divorce, illness. All of them affect family in particular ways. Obviously, it's different. There is the constant, so when you get divorced, there's some of the same things, but there are also different things that come with it. The idea is that family goes through change, and this theory shows us these various life events. The family life cycle framework provides valuable insights into the developmental tasks and adjustments that families must navigate throughout their life cycles. However, traditional theories like the family life cycle framework often fall short in capturing the resilience and adaptability of families, particularly in the face of modern challenges, such as economic instability, technological advancements, and climate change, and even COVID. In response to these limitations, there is a growing need for new family-centered theories that not only describe family dynamics, but also offer practical solutions for enhancing family resilience, improving family behavior, strengthening family ties, and family well-being. These emerging theories emphasize the importance of viewing families as active agents of shaping their own destinies. They encourage us to focus on the strengths and capabilities that families possess, rather than merely addressing their deficits or challenges. In light of these theoretical insights, I advocate for a family-centered approach that places families at the heart of societal development. This approach is grounded in the belief that families are not just passive recipients of social services, but active agents capable of fostering social connections, fortitude, and collective well-being, thereby creating socially cohesive societies. I'm not in any way negating that families need social services. That's not the point. The point is that we should encourage families as agents, and I speak about this because of what I've seen the last 2 weeks. There are aspects within families that we can harness in order to help them to help themselves in a way, given the support that is available also externally. Family-centeredness refers to the belief that family relationships and connections have a positive significance for people's health, well-being, and life trajectories. There are 5 subcategories of family-centeredness which are identified. Number 1 is family ties, which are family relationships linked to family well-being. Family focus. Family relationships should be prioritized and supported. Family closeness, trusting, supportive, and open family relationships are key. Family diversity, acceptance of different family forms, and 5 family societal impacts, which are families are linked to societal well-being. So this theory, family-centered theory, uses an approach of looking within the family, using relationships, strengthening relationships, in order to link to aspects around society. I know that there may be people in the room who think, pie in the sky. I have a vision, is all I'm going to say. Family-centeredness is culturally embedded within broader family foundations, underpinning care and bonds of well-being across people's everyday lives. This is from Phoenix and colleagues, 2021. Attention to family-centeredness provides a new holistic approach to foster healthy family living, social connections, and the capacity of families to thrive in diverse contexts. Key aspects of this approach typically include policies that support family formation and stability, economic measures that benefit families, education systems that involve and support child carers, healthcare systems that consider family needs and dynamics, and you will see there's some research that we did on point number 4, social services designed to strengthen family units, and cultural emphasis on family values and traditions. Family-centeredness highlights family strengths and needs. Practitioners, the government, and anybody dealing with families may model interactions and interventions based on family life. So what it basically says is, that's by Turnbull and colleagues 2015. And what it basically says is that if you're using a family-centered approach with families, you're going to have aspects that are similar, but it will be different because families are different, contexts are different, cultures are different. It emphasizes teamwork, communication, and accepting family choices and cultural diversity. This is by Ferguson 2020. This approach improves family well-being and encourages family participation in decision-making, allowing them to advocate for their own needs. It emphasizes family as the central unit of investigation in healthcare, education, the Sustainable Development Goals, climate change, and any other service or support, shifting the focus from the individual to the family. If this approach is to be used, it would be important to explore the aspects of family ties and family dynamics, as these are key to relationships, connections, and bonds in collectively addressing any issue. Oops. Family ties. Family ties and family dynamics are complex aspects of human relationships. They shape our social structures, personal development, and overall well-being. We must remember that families are the first social environment we encounter, shaping who we are and how we connect with the world. That is the base. It does not exclude the fact that people also make other connections. But the blueprint comes from the family. Family ties are the threads that bind us together over common experiences, ideals, and most importantly, unquestionable love. They are something more than just biological traits. Still, they form the fundamental building blocks of our lives, identities, and society. Through shared experiences, values, and responsibilities, these ties not only create a favorable environment, which is of great relevance for human development, but also greatly contribute to preserving the cohesion and stability of society. Let us consider some fundamental elements of family dynamics and relationships. Family ties are the linkages that link among families, such as blood relations, legal relations, and then of course, as what I've redefined family, there's also the recognition that close friends and non-relatives are also regarded as family. Usually a sense of loyalty and shared history and shared obligation bind these ties. Family ties are essential for society as they define the cultural norm and help to establish the identity of each person. Their fundamental goal is to create financial and emotional dependence by means of an atmosphere of mutual support, therefore encouraging tolerance towards the demands of life. Among other elements that define a nation's health are the values, ideals, practices, and behaviors developed throughout time that bind and span the society across generations. Family dynamics. Family dynamics are the interactions, patterns, roles, and connections existing within the family. The dynamics of the family are shaped in part by different approaches of communication, organization of power, and decision-making processes. One is open and closed communication, another is the direct and indirect communication, yet another is the verbal and non-verbal communication. Still, another consideration is the frequency and quality of encounters, as well as the use of technology in family communication. That is just one aspect when we talk about family dynamics. Among the many categories are power structures, including hierarchical versus egalitarian, parental authority styles, children's involvement in decision-making, gender roles, and extended family influence. Another extremely important factor and closeness is emotional ties, as the variation in attachment patterns has a significant influence on emotional expressiveness and trust. Strategies for conflict resolution include both constructive and destructive conflict patterns, abilities in compromise and negotiation, mediation or family meetings, forgiveness and reconciliation patterns, and avoidance of confrontation. Important elements are rules and expectations, explicit versus implicit norms, and cultural effects on rules define these aspects. Family duties and obligations vary. Conventional and non-traditional family roles and responsibilities are more common. So cultural background, socioeconomic level, family size, structure, personal traits, outside pressures, generational variations, and life cycle phases are the elements influencing family dynamics. So while we look at family dynamics within the family in terms of communication and power, with that we also have the external influences of culture and socioeconomic status too. And so when we look at it, we realize that it can become quite messy if one is looking at the family. Family dynamics refers to the psychological growth, social skills, and general well-being of a person influenced by their family. While a chaotic or neglected home setting may result in poor self-esteem and difficulties in emotional management, a good family environment leads to better self-esteem and appropriate emotional regulating abilities. We know it's not as simple as that, but I'm just trying to show you an example. And of course, we don't know what good means as a good family. Just saying. Family dynamics may also affect later relationship patterns of individuals in the family and with others outside of the family. So now we're starting to see that what happens in the family spills over into society. It affects the development of an identity as it is the primary setting for the development of cultural identity and value system. Career decisions, gender identification, expression, and life goals overall may all be influenced by family expectations and responsibilities. Behavioral patterns and life skills, which include health practices, risk-taking behaviors, and approaches to education and employment that are typically modeled after familial precedents or responses to family expectations, are influenced by family dynamics. Often learned in the home environment, financial management skills, time management, and goal setting have a significant influence on lifestyle decisions and the general course of life. In the intricate tapestry of human relationships, family dynamics stand out as a critical thread that weaves through the fabric of society. Understanding these dynamics is not merely an academic exercise, but the practical necessity for fostering thriving families, which in turn form the bedrock of strong, cohesive communities. That is by Smith 2020. Families provide a framework for social networking, enabling individuals to build relationships beyond the immediate environment, thereby strengthening communal ties. So what I've done is I've given you a bit of a conceptual understanding around families and the connections they make. My shift now is to some of the work that we've done. I'm going to it's all overviews of the research, 4 areas that we've done research in, which is providing us insight into these conceptualizations. And based on the research that we've done, I feel pretty confident that we're on the right track. And I'm talking about we, as in myself, my students, and whoever's involved in the study of families, around using a family-centered approach in potentially finding solutions to helping and supporting families. So the first area, so the work I've been doing in the last 10 years, part of that is being the chair. So as the chair my focus is on developing human capabilities in the family and linking that to social cohesion, but the focus is on looking at the family. And the human capabilities approach is Martin Nussbaum's theory, which is linked within the larger capabilities theory of Amartya Sen. And her theory, what she proposes is that there are 10 capabilities: life, bodily health, bodily integrity, senses, imagination and thought, emotion, practical reason, affiliation, interacting with other species, play and control over one's environment. She believes that each of us should have these capabilities to live a life of dignity, fulfillment and well-being as what each of us defines it. The human capabilities approach is fundamentally linked to individual well-being by emphasizing the importance of enabling individuals to achieve certain functionings and capabilities that are essential for a fulfilling life. Functionings refer to the various things a person may value doing or being, such as being healthy, educated, employed, or participating in community life. Capabilities, on the other hand, represent the real opportunities or freedoms individuals have to achieve these functionings. So UWC and the Center, we're the first people to be looking at this theory through the lens of the family. So while this theory focuses on the individual, within the capabilities theory, there's also a focus on collective capabilities, also known as group capabilities. And that is where the family is located as a group. So Stewart, 2005, identified 3 ways in which groups enhance the well-being and capabilities of the individual. So I spent a bit of time explaining about the family and aspects in terms of ties and dynamics. This explanation, very briefly, is just to show us that as a group, there is a benefit in a group. So think about the family as a group. When the group achieves or is successful in something, being a member of that group enhances the sense of well-being of each individual group member. As a member of the group offers the possibility of resources and being able to do a task as efficiently as possible, having more help from team members rather than doing the task alone. Often individuals become group members due to shared values, and it is these common values that influence the choices that individuals make regarding the capabilities they consider valuable for themselves and others. I propose that family, as a collective group of individuals, is a resource for individual well-being, because family or families help define who we are and who we are not, how we view the world, how we live, and how we share our lives with others. So I want to share these 4 areas of research findings we have explored. So focusing on human capabilities. So we collected data from families in Lambert's Bay, Caledon, Genadendal, Grabouw, Philippolis, which is in the Free State, Calvinia in the Northern Cape, and on the Cape Flats, Manneberg, Heidelveld, Mitchells Plain, Langa and Guguletu. We interviewed families asking very simple questions about their understanding of the 10 human capabilities and the available opportunities. So if the capability is there, if it's not, according to the theory, it's deprivation. So we have a couple of papers that's published on this. You can access it on ResearchGate. We found multiple forms of deprivation, internal and external to the families. Some of them are health deprivation, educational deprivation, play deprivation, safety and security concerns, economic deprivation. What it basically says is, and the play one was especially interesting, when we asked them about play, people know about play, and we asked them, do you play in the family? No, we don't. We don't play because play is for children. But if you go into the literature of play, and the research that's been done on play. So play is an occupational therapy term, so I'm not going to go into that area. I have colleagues in the room who can do that. But play is for fun. Play is for connection. Play is for interaction. So what it basically tells us is that, well, when we are starting to look at interventions and this deprivation, maybe these are aspects that we should consider. But with that comes the part of externally, there's no opportunities really for children to play. Because if you look at the areas that we went into, gangsterism, crime, children are at risk. So it needs then a multidisciplinary approach if one is looking at a simple thing like play. And I know this has been in the news on social media around communities and safety around communities. But these are aspects that were raised across the areas that we looked at for the research. So I just wanted to highlight that one interesting one. The other one was around emotion. Emotion is quite a big term for people to understand. So we tried to break it down, and we asked them around issues of, do they understand the word emotion? And I think that was quite difficult. And we used some examples, and then they would say, yes, I do see this, you know, with some family members, but I don't know quite how to explain it. And then we asked, okay, so do you talk about it in the family? And they said, no, but they don't talk about things like that. And when we asked them around, I'm using the term mental health care, but we linked it to mental health. What they basically said is that they don't perceive that there's a need for treatment. There is still lots of stigmatization around mental health. Mental health, emotion, it's a human capability. So now we start thinking again about, okay, so if we're going to intervene, these are some of the things that we need to be looking at. They also spoke around affordability and accessibility, specifically now in mental health care. So shortage of mental health service providers and limited knowledge of mental health. So now it becomes more enlightening as to where it is that we could start focusing. Within the families, we found deprivations of especially affiliation. So affiliation is a sense of belonging, being connected in the family, being related. Play, emotion, and bodily health. Bodily health is quite a broad term. But bodily health was also linked to food insecurity. In particular, family members did not consider play in the family as important because it was the child's job, and they had basic understanding of emotions. When we talk about deprivations, so, oops, sorry. I think I must have pressed the button. Okay, so let me, and I was doing so well. Okay. When we talk about deprivations, deprivations act as structural barriers to achieving the freedoms that individuals should be able to enjoy. We're not talking about a lavish lifestyle. We're talking about basics. Education deprivation, health deprivation, employment deprivation, income deprivation, and living environment deprivation have a detrimental impact on an individual's capabilities. Never mind still the family. Deprivation of necessities within a family can greatly impair their physical and mental capabilities. This is by Mendel and colleagues 2013. Deprivation within a family, such as having limited opportunity for quality education, a lack of educational resources, or inadequate parental support can hinder a child's educational achievements. This can limit their cognitive development, restricting their learning opportunities, and impede the acquisition of knowledge and skills necessary for future capabilities. The next one I'm wanting to look at is social cohesion. In the area of social cohesion, focusing on a family approach, trust was an important factor for social cohesion. Families identified this as lacking across communities. That's not a new finding. We know that trust in government, trust in just people in the community is not there. This means that while individuals may have some level of trust with people they know personally, such as friends, family, or neighbors, there is a broader lack of trust with the general population. The study emphasizes that the trust observed in these communities is largely particularized, which means just in their household and in their immediate environments. That was turned a little bit on its head this week, especially when I was in Mitchell's Plain, and we spoke about trust in the family, and someone said, well, he doesn't trust anybody in his family. So I'm not sure who he does trust, but yes, this trust can also be within the family. It means that this trust is based on personal relationships and familiarity. Individuals tend to trust those they know well, such as family members or close friends, rather than extending their trust to strangers or those outside their immediate social networks. A strong reliance on personal connections and shared experiences characterizes this form of trust. Furthermore, social cohesion is based on family togetherness and the belief in strong family bonds. So now we can see, we're starting to see in the research that what happens in the family is also extending into communities, into society. Participants articulated that when families prioritize unity and support among their members, it creates a ripple effect that positively influences the larger community. That doesn't necessarily mean that people trust. It just means that if things are going better in the family, it creates a stronger community. More recent information through the study of the social cohesion through the family, it highlights that strong family bonds are vital for individual well-being and play a crucial role in fostering a supportive and cohesive community. So one of my PhDs, she's reaching the end of her a PhD study. She's looking at cohesion. She's linked to this project. So she's looking at cohesion in the family and how that is related to social cohesion. And I just, with her permission, of course, I thought I would just share with you a piece of some of her findings. So in this recent results that she's found that she identified protective factors and risk factors for cohesion. And in her interview, she had families and stakeholders. So some of although she's identified these risk factors, these are also some of the things we've seen across the communities that we studied. So protective factors are religious beliefs. Participants noted that shared religious beliefs and practices such as prayer and attending church played a significant role in providing support during difficult times and fostering unity within families and communities. We found some similar conversation outcomes over the last 2 weeks where religion played quite a huge role. When we had conversations with families, we asked them, so if you're caring for the family, who cares for you? And they said that nobody, but there is a God, and God provides that care. And what was interesting about it is that it was intangible that they related to. Community support was another protective factor. The presence of supportive neighbors and community members was highlighted as a crucial factor Participants shared experiences of receiving help from others during crises, which reinforced a sense of belonging and mutual aid. Family unity was a protective factor. The emphasis on family togetherness and the belief that strong family bonds contribute to community cohesion were frequently mentioned. Participants expressed that when families support each other, it encourages a culture of helping within the broader community. Risk factors. Social inequality. Issues related to financial instability and inequality were identified as significant barriers to cohesion. Participants discussed how these factors create divisions and challenges within communities. Substance abuse and violence was also a risk factor. Instances of alcohol misuse and domestic violence were reported as risk factors that negatively impact family dynamics and community safety, leading to a breakdown in cohesion. Mental and physical challenges. The presence of individuals in the community who are unable to fend for themselves due to mental or physical challenges was noted as a risk factor that can strain community resources and support systems. I'd like to shift to a third study. So when COVID-19 started, I started a family life during COVID study. And it was a very small study. We did online data collection, but we got quite a bit of information. We did both a quantitative and qualitative study, but I'm reporting on the qualitative. The results show that the lessons that participants learned included hygiene and health consciousness, appreciation for family, valuing life, self-introspection, less dependency, remote working, and financial savings. I'm sure you can identify with quite a few of those. The negative outcomes of COVID-19 experienced by South African families included a shift in daily routines, restrictions on family events, a lack of socialization, loss of connections, family conflicts, financial constraints, as well as psychological impacts. The positive outcomes included increased family time and communication, cleanliness, good health status, and improved financial management. Families followed and adapted to the mainstream protection measures as implemented by the South African government, but in addition believe that adherence to non-pharmaceutical interventions would protect them from contracting the virus. Families had trouble adjusting to the imposed restrictions. However, some of these families used the time they had together to adapt and find new ways of building their relationships and strengthening their bonds. So while COVID provided a nexus of education, health, politics, economics, families was at the heart of receiving the onslaught. What was interesting, even though there were those challenges, when we looked at the data of the interviews, time was just a big outcome. People said that they had time for themselves, but more importantly, they had time for family. We know about the negative things. We know that parents had to run triple jobs, especially mothers, in caring, cooking, cleaning, being the teacher as well. But there were the other aspects, the more positive ones, to say time. Time was important because we could connect, build relationships. The last one I want to show, what I said previously, a little bit earlier on, with family-centeredness, is that we did a family-centeredness in healthcare, because I did a public lecture at a university in the UK in 2022. So we thought we were going to do something extraordinary. But it was very interesting. We did a review of reviews because there's such a lot of information, not in South Africa, globally, on being family-centered in healthcare. We didn't use children. We didn't want to look at family-centeredness where a sick child is concerned, because there's a sort of an automatic assumption that parents will be present. We wanted to look at adults who are in need of health care and continued support. And within these findings, we found that, so the total sample of the reviews that we did, there was 296,107 participants across the globe. We couldn't find anything in South Africa. Maybe I missed it. But there was one study of a country in Africa where some of this research has been done. The themes included the need for involvement of the family. So family members' participation in care could improve the psychological, social, emotional well-being and care. Benefits for the patient, family members, and the healthcare system were shown when the family was involved. And then families provided particular activities, such as accompaniment to the care facility, facilitating communication with the health practitioner and the patient, assisting with patient needs, information needs, personal time. Barriers to include families in healthcare was communication, exclusivity, staff attitudes, lack of training. So what it basically showed is that there's a need for families to be family-centered when it comes to healthcare and caring for a patient. But the challenge was that the healthcare professionals didn't understand what it means to be a family or how families are defined. And there would be patients who did not include blood family but included other family relatives. But this is where the family-centeredness perspective comes in, because in a situation like that, you would look to people who are supporting the patient, and the patient has the right to decide who comes in as that support, and not necessarily family. But what was interesting for me is that communication was the biggest challenge within that setup. And so there was a call for training of healthcare professionals. So what was most prominent of the review was the need for connections, relationships, communication, and understanding of the family. Rightly so, somebody will say, but that's not my job. There's somebody else that can do that. But this calls for the multidisciplinary approach, because family is actually everybody's business. The need to understand the family and family dynamics was especially important, since the biological family did not always provide the care and support. So what does all of this mean? I'm coming to the end now. What does all this mean? I've provided a theoretical perspective, a conceptualization, and I've looked at some of the studies that we've done. You will notice that I have three things on the slide. One is the holding hands, and so yes, we should be holding hands together as multi, transdisciplinary approaches to helping families. But if we don't, then we are challenged in meeting our SDGs, for example. I'm going the academic route now. Family should be the center of the SDGs, as far as I'm concerned. Because if we strengthen families and connections in families, such as cohesion, trust, and respect, we potentially have a network of communities who will seek to, for example, keep children in schools, SDG 4, therefore reduce the dropout rate. Reducing violence in and out of the family, meeting SDG 3, 5, 10, and 16. Educating families about their collective behavioral impacts on climate change, such as fostering sustainable behaviors, such as mindful consumption, waste reduction, and energy efficiency. Families can become agents of change, effectively transforming daily routines into environmental stewardship. Meeting SDG 4 and 13. A family-centered approach not only facilitates engagement in meaningful dialogue, but also mobilizes collective resources that enhance problem-solving capabilities within communities, SDG 17. There are aspects of the SDGs which require a different set of skills and approaches. My belief is that when we place families in the center, we're potentially reaching quite a few goals if we are intervening where families are concerned for their well-being. You will see this, the second picture I have there that I've screenshot out of the NDP. So when I applied for the chair, this is what caught my attention. And from here, I developed the idea of the proposal. And when you look at it, you will see that it has capabilities, and it goes around into employment growth, poverty reduction, rising living standard. All of that is in a circle, and in the center we have active citizenry, effective government, and strong leadership, and the outcome is social cohesion. So I have the idea, and this was the proposal, that if we place families at the center of capabilities, and we ensure that they have the opportunities to strengthen the capabilities so that they can function in a particular way, we would achieve social cohesion. Pie in the sky, but it's a vision. So, what should we do? And of course, there's probably a long list of things. I've only taken some of the things. But let's see. The implications of adopting a family-centered approach extend far beyond theoretical discussions. So it's good for us to have theoretical discussions, but I think it's time for us to become more practical in terms of families. I don't in any way negate all the work that is being done, has been done, currently being done. Our faculty is community focused. So I'm not negating any of that. All I'm saying is that we shouldn't forget there is such a thing as family-centeredness. And it may just make our work a little bit easier. In practice, this approach can significantly influence public policy, healthcare, education, and social services. By recognizing families as key resources in addressing societal challenges, we can develop interventions that are more aligned with the lived realities of families. So in public policy, family-centered policies should prioritize the well-being of families by creating environments that recognize and harness family strengths. So for example, I spoke earlier about the policy on paternal leave. That has been done, and it's been implemented, and people are adjusting to it and enjoying it. But there's also things like the recognition of having maybe a little ECD center or a play area where parents can have their young kids at school, and the realization that there are families, people have children, and so the work environment is not as conducive in terms of policies for that. So more family-friendly policies is what should be looked at. Additionally, policies that promote social protection for vulnerable families, such as those affected by poverty or unemployment, can help to mitigate the impact of socioeconomic challenges and enhance family resilience. In healthcare providers must adopt a family-centered approach by involving family members in care decisions and recognizing the family's role in patient recovery and well-being. This involves creating communication channels that facilitate family participation in healthcare, ensuring that healthcare staff are trained to engage with families effectively, and developing care plans that consider the needs and preferences of the entire family unit. Because even when engaging with the patient still has to go home to the family, and the environment may not be conducive for that. Sorry. In education, schools and educational institutions should recognize the diverse family structures and provide support that accommodate these differences. We speak about this whole range of families. But the question is the school environment accepting of it? And what do they do to support those type of family structures? You just think of single moms, for example. This includes offering flexible school hours and homework policies that accommodate the needs of working parents, providing family counseling services to support children and their families, and implementing programs that encourage family involvement in children's education. I'm on this drive about we need to keep kids in schools, because if we don't, we can see the huge dropout rates, and kids are on streets doing things that they shouldn't be doing. And it has implications for our future as a country. In community services, community-based organizations can play a crucial role in supporting families by providing services that enhance family well-being and social cohesion. This includes offering parenting programs, mental health services, financial literacy training, and support for families dealing with addiction or domestic violence. I'm not saying this is not happening. It is happening. The important thing is the question around, is it family-centered or is it person-centered? By adopting a family-centered approach, community organizations can tailor their services to meet the specific needs of families, helping them to navigate challenges and build stronger, more resilient communities. In our rapidly changing world, families are faced with new challenges that require adaptive and innovative solutions. Two of the most pressing challenges of our time are the impact of digitalization and the effects of climate change. Both of these challenges have profound implications for families, and they demand a family-centered approach to address them effectively. We've started a journey now to look at family behavior in terms of climate change. What that looks like, we don't know. But if we're using a family-centered approach, and you're looking at how families struggle, I mean, we've just seen the thunderstorms and the weather that we've had over the last period. And you wonder around, how families cope and what they're doing, but also around how families behave in terms of mitigating climate change. So in conclusion, as we draw this lecture to a close, the future of family science lies in our ability to adapt to the changing realities of family life and develop innovative approaches that place families at the center of societal development. By adopting a family-centered approach, we can create supportive environments that empower families to thrive and contribute to broader societal well-being. We must establish supportive environments that help family members overcome obstacles and contribute to their communities by focusing on their strengths, needs, and dynamics. When we strengthen the capabilities in and of families to connect, we harness the family's potential to collectively thrive and weave stronger societies. Thank you for listening.
Before we continue, I just have an announcement. There's a car CAA228035. Your lights are burning. If you could just go and switch it off. I'm sure you wouldn't want to be stuck here after this lecture. Shall I repeat that? It's CAA 228035. I think it's a white Hyundai. It looks like it. Prof. Roman, what can we say? I think what you had to say was very thought-provoking. I think as a society we need to really revisit our constructions, how we construct things like family. We make particular assumptions. And I kept thinking about the song by The Main Ingredient, happy couples make happy families, and happy families make happy communities. Yeah, so it's what comes first. Is it the individual? Is it the family? But what you presented really makes one think, and even about how do we define who are parents. In some of my students and my own work around masculinities, when fathers are absent, we talk about social fathering. So who is the father? Is it by blood? Is it by connection? What is it? What I also would like to say that your work, it was very clear, your work spans years, very nuanced, very detailed, and I almost thought, wow, how ambitious, but that's you. So thank you very much for the insights. It is greatly appreciated. We have a little gift. Dr. Sheikchi, I don't think he's here. He gave it to me. We want to know how much money is in here.
Yes, please.
So this is for you.
Thank you.
And then Prof. Wahi also has something to hand over to. Yeah, here we go.
Can I show? 5 million. I'm only going to look at millions, Prof.
So, Prof. Roman, on behalf of the faculty, we're handing you a gift, and we hope that you're going to enjoy this. So,
Thank you.
on behalf of us and the entire faculty.
Thank you very much.
We're now going to ask Professor Isaacs, who's one of Professor Roman's proteges, to do the response. She's the respondent for the evening. So Professor Serena Isaacs is from psychology. Welcome.
Good evening, everybody. What is a respondent? This is the question I've been asking myself for the last week. Google does not know. I asked Google many times over the last few days. Good one. AI. But it was unhelpful. I asked Google, what is the role of a respondent in an inaugural lecture? Searched, found nothing. This morning, however, I asked the question again, and a very helpful response on ResearchGate by another professor who did an inaugural lecture said that his inaugural lecture is the ultimate pinnacle, but it also depends on the respondent, the specific person who will respond to your inaugural lecture. So not helpful. But then, like any good researcher, I decided, let's try this question, and I asked, what exactly is an inaugural lecture? Obviously, I knew the answer to the question, but I will let you know. So an inaugural lecture is an auspicious occasion for the university to acknowledge the appointment of new full professors, introduce them to the academic and non-academic community of the university, and to provide opportunities for engagement with the greater community. So I assume I'm embodying the greater community. Prof. Nicolette Roman, you were my supervisor, my main supervisor for my PhD. You were the one who scared me enough to ensure that I finished in time. And surprise, my thesis was on family resilience. I continue on this journey of research within resilience and discovering different environments, factors that influence structures, all of which can promote and strengthen resilience processes. In my humble, greater community opinion, there's no better unit or structure or environment or cohort group to strengthen and positively develop people than family. You say that a family-centered perspective benefits society and promotes human well-being. It speaks to the centrality of family in life, which is everything. The essential role of the family as a foundation for positive outcomes emphasizes that foundation's impact on and in every aspect of a human being's life. So indeed, you say the two common factors among all of us in this room are family and connections. I encourage each person sitting here to think about their own family in whichever form you define a family, and how that family has either contributed to your own positive outcomes or, as is some sad reality, and many people's sad reality, might have contributed to your need to build your own resilience throughout the journey of your own life. Then I ask you to reflect on who you consider your family today. Who do you invite to your special events? Who do you reach out to in times of crisis? How has your family of origin contributed to that? That is the central thesis, really, of today. The premise you put forth, Prof, is simple, one that is widely documented in family well-being research, that the family is responsible for many wonderful outcomes. You summarize in your lecture that they're responsible for the development of positive psychological well-being, emotional regulation, social skills, healthy habits, problem solving, financial management, time management, goal setting skills. And so they provide that foundation. They model behavior, assist in engaging social and community networks. They form that little microcosm. And they demonstrate appropriate behaviors and actions during crises. And so it follows that this produces and could produce, has the potential for healthy, sustainable, creative societies. But you also note the challenges that families experience. And the problem with this, of course, is that what affects one individual often affects that entire system. You discuss Prof and Brenner's ecological systems theory, Bowen's family systems theory. A system wants equilibrium. A system goes out of its way to ensure balance, and so what affects one affects the rest. You note the extensive personal, environmental, and social challenges that they experienced: health deprivation, education deprivation, social support, play deprivation, substance use, safety and security concerns, and the word deprivation should anger us. Why? Because some of these challenges can make you weaker and not stronger. It contributes to an increase in inequality, emphasizes the lack of access that the majority of us have, of the South African family has, and ultimately could contribute to the demise of that established, incredibly important unit of society, the family. You say that your philosophy is to focus on what is right and not what is wrong within the family, and I remember that from 2014, sitting in your office trying to conceptualize my PhD topic. It was all very pie in the sky then as well, and I had no idea what I was doing. And many times through it all, I thought, what was I thinking going into families? It's so complex. How do you define it? Where do you go? What do you measure? What am I then measuring? It was a nightmare, and you said, sit down, and took out paper and pen, and we mapped it out. So this philosophy is a critical component in psychological resilience research, focusing on what is strong and not what is wrong. It's essential in navigating the normative and especially the non-normative challenges that South African families often face. On the one hand, we often applaud, give accolades to those who overcome and beat the odds. They attribute positive family bonds, social support, deep sense of self-confidence to those beating the odds. But on the other hand, one does have to ask, why do we live in a society where we have to beat the odds? Why do we have to overcome the effects of crime and violence, effects of poverty, food insecurity, poor physical, psychological health? This is the question I ask myself constantly. So then the question is your focus, or your question, your main question, that families are the answer to our problems? You state that families are the first social environment we encounter, shaping who we are and how we connect with the world. So we have 17 Sustainable Development Goals. You have aligned your work, and very eloquently, with a few of those, 3, 4, 5, 10, 13, 16. Based on the lecture, I feel like I can make it a little bit more simple. I see the implications of families in almost every SDG, in all SDGs. The implications of your discussion is that we are ultimately building the individuals who will be creative, happy, mindful, resilient enough to develop the expertise and to meet those goals. So yes, family should be in the middle of the SDGs. If I reflect on the first inaugural lecture, I went deep with the first inaugural lecture that happened 2 weeks ago. No? The natural sciences was at some point. I went deep with my research on what is a respondent, and the answer was, yeah, at UWC. That respondent mentioned that the ultimate aim, or mentioned the ultimate aim that unites us all. It's building a resilient environment and building a resilient community. And you take that back by saying it starts with families, and it starts with us. You mentioned that we need to recognize families as key resources in addressing societal challenges and develop policies and interventions aligned with the lived experience of families. Prof. Roman, thank you for bringing us all on your journey. The key component from your lecture, Outcomes from the State of Many Years of Family Wellbeing Research, is that a focus on the family is not only a focus on the family. Brings in that interdisciplinary that we discussed earlier. If we want to contribute to positive family strengthening and all the wonderful outcomes as you summarize them, all of which are learned within the family context, it requires streamlined, effective, accessible efforts from several key players in support of good health and well-being, SDG 3. Effective and supportive policies, economic measures, education systems, healthcare systems, so on. What is so wonderful about the accumulation of your work and what you've shown us is that you constantly provide a platform for families to find their own voice and to share that voice with us. You are on the ground, you are in the field, you should be responding to your own lecture. And you ask them what you think are the practical strategies that can actually help them, right? Because it's their problems. And the outcomes of the research and the excitement of the potential of its impact are not only felt out there in the communities, like we like to say, it's felt in here. Tax incentives for family caregivers, healthcare providers creating communication channels that facilitate family participation in healthcare. Educational institutions offering flexible school hours and homework policies that accommodate the needs of working parents. I think back to about 1.5 years ago, my sister had also just had her baby after I had mine. She also had a 7-year-old daughter who just started grade 1. And managing a newborn and homework every single day with as much homework as what grade 1s get, I believe she could have used that type of reflection at that time. Using technology and digitalization, increasing flexibility, easing the life of the family. These are things that every one of us sitting here would greatly benefit from. So thank you very much. Your dedication to the field is exemplary. You give much food for thought. And I look forward to your contributions, contributing more so to the well-being of the South African family. Thank you, Prof.
That was true Serena style. Colleagues, we're getting to the end of our program. Prof. Roman would like to say a word of thanks, and then Prof. Erasmus is going to do the thanks on behalf of all of us.
I promise not to speak long, because it seems I have gone over my time. I just wanted to use the opportunity to acknowledge certain people along this journey towards the inaugural lecture. So firstly, Prof. Fidosa, for forcing me to do this. I'm telling everybody. I'm only joking. But really the belief that I could pull this off and present to the university community about this area. To the AI office and the registrar's office for your support through this whole process. To the faculty for their support, especially my person, Arthur. So Arthur and I have come on a long journey from 2010, I think. Arthur came into my office as a techie, and then afterwards he became the administrator. I stole him from the faculty, and they still cross for me. So Arthur and I have a special relationship in terms of he's always supportive. He's also doing his PhD with me, so clearly he hasn't been punished enough. But Arthur, I'm extremely grateful for everything that you've done over the last couple of weeks. I know that your hand has been in all of this, so thank you. To Harriet Box, I'm not quite sure where she is. I thought that was Harriet. She knows I've dodged her for the whole of my career. And this week I couldn't because of the inaugural lecture. She was in her no piece that I was a person for this process. I really want to thank you for your support. Then I want to thank my family for sitting and listening, which they haven't done for a very long time. You know how it is, we get into the academic space and it's us as academics and the students. And so this becomes a different type of experience for family. Luckily for me, my husband is in the university, so he knows pretty well around these matters. But I want to especially say thank you to my children for sitting through this long lecture, and then to my mom and my aunt. So for those of you who don't know, I come from an extended family with a single mom. My family, at one stage I counted, we were 20 people in a 3-bedroom council house. So my playing ground was well defined at that time. And I think, that becomes part of your blueprint and your interest in how things happen around you. So my interest in family behavior is deeply rooted there. As a girl child of a single mom, I'd like to ask you to please give a hand to my mom. The driving force was education, Ketan education, and here I am, I'm a first generation. So I want to especially say thank you for everything that she's done. I moved on to have a nuclear family, and I had support, so I'm privileged. I've been exposed to all types of families. My aunt is my mom's sister, and the two of them are buddies in providing support to the family. So I'm very grateful that they could be here tonight. Thank you, everybody, for attending. And my students, you have the 24 hours still.
Professor Charlene Erasmus, if you can make your way to the front to come and do the thanks. Oh, yeah, you are. Sorry.
Good evening, everyone. I'm sure you, as well as I am, want to get to the end of this. It is a great pleasure for me to extend our heartfelt gratitude on behalf of the Faculty of Community and Health Sciences for joining us on the momentous occasion as we celebrate the inaugural lecture of Professor Roman. First and foremost, I would like to express our deepest thanks to Prof. Roman for inspiring and insightful presentation. Your lecture on capabilities, connections, and collective thriving, harnessing family potential to weave stronger societies, has not only illuminated our understanding, but has also set a high standard for academic excellence and innovation. Your dedication to the research of children, families, and society is commendable, and we are privileged to have had the opportunity to hear from you today. Side note, I'm a colleague of Prof. Roman, so I'm very well aware of that. They say dynamite comes in small packages. This is the example of that. We are also grateful for the Faculty of Community and Health Sciences and the Dean, Acting Dean Professor Wahi, whose unwavering support and vision have made this event possible. Your commitment to fostering a vibrant academic community is the cornerstone of our institution's success. To our esteemed guests, colleagues and students, your presence here today is a testament to the collaborative spirit that defines our institution. Your engagement and support are vital to the success of our academic endeavors, and we look forward to continuing this journey together. In closing, I'd like to extend my sincere appreciation to everyone who contributed to making the inaugural lecture a memorable event. Let us carry forward the knowledge and inspiration gained today and strive for excellence in our respective fields. Thank you once again for being here and for your ongoing support. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. If you can just stand and we can allow the academics to leave. They have to go and derobe, and then there's some refreshments in the foyer. Thank you very much.